Hi, good morning or good
Hello.
afternoon here.
Oh, I just can't see you. Sorry. Oh, hi. Hi, Sapphire. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, thank you. Can you hear me all right? Because I'm not usually in this
Can
room. Oh,
I
that's
can you
great.
hear me okay?
Yeah, perfect, perfect. My studio decided to not have broadband anymore or internet, so I'm like tucked away in my bedroom now.
Well, that's fun. I hate when
Yeah,
that happens.
don't you? It's
Every
awful.
once in a while I live in a small apartment with four roommates, and every once in a while the internet in here will just suddenly stop working. Sometimes like in the middle of a class. And then I
Oh
just gotta go into the living room and be like, sorry guys, I got my clarinet out over here. It's gonna
no!
be a sorry about
Oh no! Oh, that's good. Okay, you made me feel better.
it. Yeah. So, just in case you haven't heard a lot about me yet, my name is Sapphire Sky Toth. I am in the third year of my undergrad studying music composition at the University of Nebraska Lincoln.
Excellent. I did read that about you. And I'm so pleased you're studying composition because there weren't that many women when I was doing it.
So let's dive into it.
Okay.
Fate came out last week, almost a whole week now. What has
Yeah.
it been like since it premiered? What are your thoughts on the feedback?
Well, obviously, incredibly happy because it's been at number one on Netflix worldwide since it came out. So we're really, everybody's pleased about that because the team worked so hard on it. It was a long, long time making Fate, and it had a lot of love as well. So I'm really pleased, especially for Brian Young, the creator. And yeah, it's just really exciting to have the buzz. I think it's had a huge fan base, which I think they were quite eager to see how their beloved animated series was going to translate into a darker, more adult world. And
Mhm.
you've got a mix of opinions, as there always is going to be about anything. But I think the majority of people have responded really well to it.
Yeah, I personally grew up watching the Winx Club with my
Oh,
older
did you?
sister back when
Yeah,
the original Italian cartoon came onto 4Kids.
yeah.
I remember when I was like 5, I told my mom, I'm too old for Dora. I only watch the Winx now.
Oh, that's brilliant.
So it's really cool now to be like,
Yeah,
I don't watch what's something I used to watch? I don't watch Disney Channel anymore. I'm too old for that.
yeah.
I watch the Winx now.
That's hilarious. And I've regressed. I've now got a subscription to the Disney Channel, but I blame that on my kids, but I secretly like it. So it's it's a win-win.
Also, I just
That's really
noticed, I
good.
gotta ask, are those like Bloom earrings? Because they
Oh,
remind me of the animation.
they're
Because like
not,
Bloom
but
used to
you're
always have
right.
stars.
Do you know, I
So,
always accidentally wear jewelry that coincides with the project I'm working on. Like I accidentally wore a horse ring to a meeting about a series I did called The Pale Horse, and everyone's going, "Did you do it on purpose?" It's like, no. So yeah, there you go. My
if
tribute.
mentioned, Winx already had a pretty big fan base internationally coming into this. Was this something at all that you had in mind when you were creating your sound palette for the series, or was the previous series not really on your mind as much?
No, the previous series wasn't on my mind, just because I knew that it was going to be for a completely different audience age range and a completely different beast in many ways. So, although it harks to the animation, it's based fundamentally on the animated series. It goes into a much darker path, and I wanted to create something that was very different from the series. But yeah, no, we wanted something quite distinctly different and something that was of that world, but not harking back to the animated series.
Yeah, well, I think you did a really great job of that. The music was definitely my favorite part of this whole thing, not just because I'm a composer, but it was what
Oh,
kept me like enthralled in the
oh,
episodes. I
thank you.
especially love how you would wrap instrumentation and stuff subtly into the different characters. So can you tell me a bit about your process of figuring out the different sounds and ideas you wanted for each of these characters?
Yeah, I have to think back to it. But yeah, so we decided as a team, myself and Brian and the producer Judy, that each girl should have a sound that we respond to every time we hear it. Nothing too crazy, you know, we didn't want it to be like caricatures, but just a little niggly something that the audience might respond to in their subconscious. And so I just sort of different instrumentation that might suit each of their magical powers. Like that's what I wanted to focus on was their magic. And then so it could have been a different type of instrument that I used, or a certain motif that I used that would keep coming back. Bloom had several themes because she's the most complex character who we follow and goes through a number of transitions that the other characters don't really have to go through. Bloom is from the realm of California, and she has to get used to this whole new world that she's embarked on.
Building off of creating those different sounds, I personally recognize a lot of different acoustic elements, like cellos I often heard brought up, and I think a harp, something that was a pluck string, as well as a large variety of synths. So I've got to ask, did you ever work with live musicians for this project, or was it all just you and your DAW?
No, I did work with live musicians, and that's one of the things I wanted to do, was to merge my sort of classical training and my love of contemporary avant-garde music and classical traditional music with more edgy contemporary synth music and synth pop as well, and music that I listened to as a teenager that's quite dark. Sort of all those worlds and influences that I grew up with came into the score. So I did record, I think it was an ensemble of 10. We recorded at Abbey Road Studios, which was really fun, and then another studio in London called Rack. And just had a lot of fun because for the first 2 episodes, I was ready to record, and then lockdown happened. And so suddenly it was trying to find musicians who could record from home and trying to get them to play individually together. And although it worked, and those musicians are amazing for doing that, it just wasn't the same as going into a studio. So luckily for the last 4 episodes, the studios started to open again, and those same musicians who'd recorded remotely from home all gathered into Abbey Road Studios. And I think we just giggled the whole time because we were so happy to be playing together. It made such a difference.
With this blend of the synthetic instruments and the real life instruments, what do those recording sessions look like? Do you guys have the synths going that the musicians can hear while they're playing, or are they really 2 separate entities that you eventually bring together?
No, I wanted them to hear what they would be playing with and supporting. So they definitely had all of the backing tracks in their cans, all of the synths, everything that I'd created around there. I even sort of mixed sort of little sound effects for certain characters, and little bits. I was creating sound effects for them. So those were all put in there so that they could hear how they should balance and how they should interpret the piece of music. I think it's really important for musicians to hear what they're playing with.
That's so cool. I really like hearing about that stuff because I'm working on my first electroacoustic piece right now. So it's really interesting to dive into that world. My favorite part of your scoring during this whole series was how you create such amazing music during the dialogue. I feel so much like in this genre of urban fantasy or urban sci-fi for like the past 5 years, music during a dialogue heavy cue is either just too active, or they usually just use some kind of low drone that will crescendo and decrescendo as time goes on. However, you add these amazing melodic moments and sequences that really help build the scene without being overpowering. So what goes on in your mind when you're doing that? What's your strategy?
Oh, thank you. That's a really lovely compliment. Do you know, I guess it could be because I started off in documentaries and spent many, many years creating music for documentaries. And I didn't ever just want to create bog standard library tracks that people could just pick off the shelf, because then what's the point of hiring a composer? So I always try to give characters and situations particular themes, and I always wanted to make sure that those themes are sitting nicely with the characters. But in documentary world, there's so many talking heads that you really have to be mindful of not getting in the way of what they're telling the audience. So I guess I've learned how to sit back and let the dialogue shine, but still create a musical world behind that to support them.
With this project, what would you say was the most difficult cue to score?
Oh, well, I would say the happy cues.
Really?
Yeah. And if Brian Young ever watches this, and I'm sure he will laugh, because we spent quite a while trying to pitch those cues just right. I'm very comfortable in a world of darkness, and although I do love, I've done my fair share of comedies and light movies, which I really love, it was quite hard pitching it in Winx because we didn't want it to be cliched, happy, fun moments. We wanted it to still be in the other world, the realm of the other world. But so it was trying to just find that lightness that worked, and it was happy enough, because also Netflix wanted to make sure we didn't go too dark with everything. They wanted a lot of happier, lighter moments, especially at the beginning of the series.
Kind of on that same coin, what was your favorite cue to score during this project?
I really loved scoring Bloom's cues. I just thought she was so fun to score when she was trying to control her magic, because it was quite, they were complex moments when she's distraught, she's frustrated, and yet something beautiful comes out of it when she succeeds. And I really wanted to create something that was sensitive to her, but also powerful at moments. And her theme was something that I could play with as the show went on. It was something that I could grow. So that was fun. And it also, one of the cues made Brian cry, and I thought that was fun.
Yes, it's always great to see a physical response. Andrew from White Bear PR mentioned to me in his email, you actually got to work with a team weekly. Yeah. What was that like? Would you say that's also very out of the norm? What was your feelings on that?
Yeah, I mean, I was going into meetings in London. I think that was almost weekly at the time, when everybody was there, the producer and Brian and the music supervisor and the editors. And we would just watch through all the time and have spotting sessions. And then I was always there for the meetings when it came to the commercial music discussions, which composers aren't usually privy to. But I found that it really helped me understand what kind of commercial music they were going to be choosing for the show. And so I could start to think about the sounds that was going to encompass, and make sure that my score matched and complemented those tracks. It also made me feel like a part of the team, because sometimes as a composer, you're sort of tacked on the end, and then you chat with the director and the editor, but it's just the three of you. Whereas with this one, I felt very much part of the team all the time, and I was privy to all the conversations that went on for almost a year.
So Winx in the original show, the word is used to define a fairy's magical power. What would be your Winx?
I do love water and diving, and I think mine would be to hold my breath underwater. Maybe like a mermaid, but without the tail.
Kind of like Aisha.
Yeah, she's a water fairy. I don't know if she can hold her breath underwater though. I'll have to ask Brian if he's going to make her do that. But yeah, no, yeah, water. How about you?
I mean, in the cartoon, Musa is the fairy of music, so I'd love that power. You know, just score by using my hands instead of trying to make Logic do what I want. That'd be awesome. But
okay, I want one of those.
But based off of Fate, I would probably want to be a Dragon Flame Fairy like Bloom, because I don't know, fire type was always what I picked when I played Pokemon, so it just seems natural.
That's great. I'm with you on that. I'm a Leo and the Year of the Dragon, so fire is quite attractive to me as well.
Any final thoughts for aspiring composers or any other audiences that may watch this interview once I get it out there?
Oh, well, I mean, you and I were talking about how we're seeing a lot more women in composition class, which I really love to hear, because when I was growing up and studying, you know, it was me and somebody else. So I'm really pleased to hear that more girls and women are becoming aware of this crazy old job that we all want to do, which is writing film music. And I'd say to all aspiring composers, you know, men and women, just to keep writing and don't let COVID throw you, you know, this whole negativity that's going on. What I've been hearing is that productions are starting to come out of the woodwork. They're all alive and kicking. There are more and more out there. And I'm seeing a lot more names I've never seen before, which is really fun and encouraging. So I think there's a lot of space for new voices to come out. So just keep writing and keep going for it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. It was such a treat to talk to you. I love the series. The music was my favorite part, and I hope I get to talk to you again soon.
Oh, me too. I'm so glad you're a fan. That was really fun to talk to you. And yeah, thanks for having me on your show.
Happy to be back with this special episode of Chatting with Creators. If you want to hear more of this special episode with Ann Nikitin, tune in next week on Thursday to find out how. I will see you tomorrow at Flyover New Music Series 3 this year, Roads Ahead, for the premiere of my piece To an Isle in the Water, premiered by Daniel Ikepiyama and Jeremy Duck.